The story opens with a dramatic backdrop, a towering castle or imperial structure engulfed in fierce flames. The introductory text sets the stage for a tragic legend, describing the main character as a slave-born imperial guard who died protecting the mad emperor who had made a pact with a demon. As the scene shifts to the burning entryway, flanked by large statues, the narrative poses a critical question about this dying man's legacy. Will he be remembered as a knight who never abandoned his loyalty until the very end? The visual focus closes in on the fiery destruction, offering a cynical alternative, or perhaps as a foolish loser who failed to read the tides of time. However, the main character, whose face is shown obscured by a dark cloth with a streak of blood visible, rejects both definitions in an internal monologue, but in the end, neither sits well with me. We are then formally introduced to the subject of this reflection, Cain Iater, Imperial Guard of the Emperor. Shift to flashback. A furious, regretful voice yells out at Cain, "Why on earth did you turn your blade at the last moment?" This voice of anguish continues, reflecting on Cain's choice. It would have been cleaner to vanish from everyone's memory. "Cain, you idiot." The voice belongs to the rebel leader, Halo Reston. Cain, reflecting on his life as he dies, thinks, "Born an orphan, I've lived for 29 years making my own choices." Halo's voice continues to boom out, filled with pain and confusion over Cain's final action. "You could have fled. Why would you make a choice like this?" The man screams Cain's name in desperation, "Cain," and then a final, heartbroken cry, "Cain. You son of a..." Transition to rebirth. The scene visually dissolves, moving into an ethereal space of blue, glowing water. As a reflection of a figure's feet steps into the shimmering water, the figure is confused. This place. Cain processes his death and the location he finds himself in. Feeling disillusioned, so this is freedom, it isn't much after all. He recalls the emotional farewell from the rebel leader, that Halo guy, crying like that. But Cain dismisses the lingering attachment, deciding, well, he'll manage on his own. The shock of reincarnation. A sudden visual disturbance occurs, indicated by sound effects and bright, streaking lines. Cain is abruptly thrown into confusion, uttering, "Huh?" The screen is filled with a splash of purplish and blue light. A new, kind voice is heard, "You were born healthy and well, Karen." The perspective shifts to a baby's view. As hands come into view, the internal voice, Cain, is utterly bewildered. What in the world is going on? He hears an old man exclaim happily, "My youngest grandson." Cain's mind struggles to identify the man. Halo? He's old and wrinkled, but he's definitely. The shock is immense. He is looking at Halo Reston, now decades older. The baby starts crying loudly. One of the adults reacts gently, noting, "Ah, I made him cry, did I?" Cain, realizing the horrifying truth, thinks, utterly stunned, "I became Halo's grandson?" 45 years later, the Reston dukedom. After the title sequence, the story fast-forwards to a large estate overlooking a town. The young boy, Karen Reston, the reincarnated Cain, is listening to an older man, a professor, discussing historical events. The professor mentions the knight Cain later, who met death alongside the evil emperor 45 years ago. He also adds the common view that Cain could not stop his lord from straying onto a wrongful path. Karen, now seemingly around 10 years old and sitting in a study, asks the man seated opposite him, "What are your thoughts, young master?" before quickly correcting himself to address the scholar properly, "And your own view, professor?" The professor is caught off guard, replying, "Eh?" Karen delivers a sharp deduction about Cain's memory, stating that Halo Reston is essentially gilding his friend's name. The professor reacts internally with shock and disbelief at the boy's brazen statement. What on earth is this brat saying? Visibly flustered, the professor asks, what do you mean by that?" Karen explains his theory calmly and shrewdly, because grandfather, rather than joining him on the road to revolution, Cain chose death, and grandfather can't accept that. He continues his stunning deduction: if we suppose Kane later chose death instead of joining his friend in a fight to the death or in revolution, it becomes a perfectly reasonable action. The professor is immensely impressed by this 10-year-old's insight, to think that a mere 10-year-old could make such a deduction. He is forced to admit his own narrow perspective. Well, I've never considered that perspective before. Karen's confirmed status and internal conflict. Karen, whose foot is seen stepping firmly on the ground, confirms his current identity in an internal monologue. Right now, my name is Karen Reston. As you can see, I'm the youngest grandson of the Reston dukedom. For the time being, anyway. He summarizes his strange existence: it took me a while to piece the situation together, but in the end, I've been reborn as the grandson of Halo Reston. Karen observes his father, noting that he is pale, Halo's youngest son, and is my father. Karen approaches him and asks, "Yes, father. You were praying again, weren't you?" Karen understands the root of his father's anxiety. "You're still worried about my awakening ceremony?" In a moment of genuine affection, Karen reassures him, "No matter what anyone says, you're the greatest father to me." His father responds with overwhelming love, "And you're the greatest son to me." "Oh, my boy." The father suggests they eat. "Come, let's go eat dinner. What would you like?" Karen replies with a simple request: "Of course, I want meat." The secret awakening. The conversation revolves around the awakening. The focus returns to Karen lying down, possibly reflecting after the dinner suggestion. He continues to puzzle over the custom, wondering, awakening ceremony? What's that? He is seen conversing with a shirtless male relative, possibly an older sibling. The relative speaks of wanting to live quietly somewhere remote, away from everyone, but dismisses the idea with a laugh. Pfft. He then mysteriously promises Karen, "When I become head one day, I'll tell you that secret specially." Karen, however, has his own secret. Blue, crackling magical energy bursts dramatically from his body. Addressing his worried father, Karen confidently states, "Father, you don't have to worry." He dramatically reveals the truth: "I already finished my magic awakening ages ago." A journey and final vow. The scene shifts to a bustling, grand city square with large buildings. A woman is impressed. "Wow." A man, clearly pleased with himself, responds, "Heh, are you amazed?" "I knew it." "Huh, you flatter me, my lady." He insists on his own excellence. "Even if you say that, it's truly something great, you know that, don't you?" Karen watches this interaction, affirming in his mind that his father's boastful statement about himself being the greatest father it's true. He internally praises both parents, noting that though his father may not have awakened magic, he is a father devoted to family, concluding, they're truly the perfect parents. The scene moves to a train traveling through a wooded, rocky landscape. Karen notices something. The destination comes into view, a massive, formidable fortress under a cloudy sky. Karen identifies the location. That's the Reston family's main estate, specifically, the Azura Sea Fortress. The story culminates with a final, intense focus on Halo Reston's face. Karen addresses his grandfather mentally, Halo Reston. He makes a powerful, antagonistic vow, overlaid with red energy: "I'll definitely become exactly the opposite." He declares his intention to utterly reject the noble image Halo tried to bestow upon him: "I'll be the worst trash in Reston." As the train rushes toward the fortress entrance, Karen makes his final promise to his unsuspecting grandfather: "Wait for me, Halo. Your precious youngest grandson is coming."